What's the best way we can challenge ourselves? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods, talking about the lessons I learned along the way in life. I hope you're enjoying this series of events. They're all individual, so you can watch them as you wish. But how did I get myself out of the ditch? And I was kind of a weird kid where I just started noticing everything. I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't have money. We were very poor, and I didn't have a lot of assistance from my parents. So I had to start figuring out life on my own a little bit better. I was also raised on a military base, and there was a fair share of problems on the military base. A lot of the military people were in Vietnam. They got really messed up by a lot of things. There was a lot of drinking. There was a lot of bad behavior, but there was also not a lot of parenting going on. Not saying military people are bad. You could tell these were people that were hurting quite a bit. And a lot of us grew up really fast on that military base and learned, some of us, lessons about how to live life. Some of the people that I was friends with, now that I've been able to reconnect with them on social media, did great, did fine, are doing exceptionally well, while other people fell into a lot of the same habits their parents did. I had my best friend from grade school, and she kind of fell into the same group. She also got mad at me because I didn't fall into the same patterns of behavior like she did. And so the next one comes from my dad. At one point, somewhere when I was around 9, 10 years old, my dad taught me how to play chess. And we played chess and board games all the time. And he trounced me every time. I just got walloped in chess because he was a grown adult and I was a 9-year-old kid. And I kept playing chess, and at some point I got frustrated about it. And he says, you can go find people to play chess against who will be much like you. You can go find people in school and play chess with them, and they're going to be exactly like you are. But here's the thing. Always play chess with someone who's better than you. That's how you learn to become better. And so I never did. Never went to school. I never went out to my friends and learned how to play chess. I always just played against him. And it taught me to be better. And I remember, I don't know, somewhere maybe 11 to 12 years old, I beat him. For the first time after all those chess games, I beat him in a game of chess. And I made sure, I'm like, you didn't let me win, right? And he goes, I would never let you win. That is something I will never do. I beat him. On my own, I beat him. And suddenly I became obsessed with learning how to be better at chess even more. Now, my dad told me that the greatest chess players, and I don't know if this is true or not, can play 11 moves ahead. So that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and here's my plans, and here's my strategies. And that's what I worked on. So I started getting to the place where I could play about 6 or 7 moves ahead. And I got pretty darn good at chess. I realized at that point that was really a big life lesson. That if you play chess or anything against people who are as good as you are, you never get better. You always get into the exact position you're in right now. And that doesn't matter whether you're playing a game, whether you're doing something at work. So I always positioned myself around people who were better at something than I was better at because I wanted to learn from them. I wanted to know how they were doing it. When I was not good at planning my day, I wanted to be around people who were great at it. I think, too, that was a lot of where my best friend, Em, and I got to be best friends. I think we're good at different things. And so we got a chance to learn from each other about different aspects of life. And we both got better over the course of years at both of those things. So while when we became friends, we were quite different people, even though we're still different in a lot of ways, we've become closer together because we've learned from each other how to take the strengths each of us have and turn them into us-shaped strengths. I'm not her, and she's not me. But we're better because we have taken whatever lesson we've learned from each other and become better as ourselves in those positions. And so the question I ask you is, when was the last time you put yourself in a position where you were the least skilled person in the room? Where you were the person who was the worst at something? A lot of times people will not do that. Now, my brother asked a really interesting question because I keep saying this all the time. I am not much of a writer. I did some things so that I could be decent enough at writing so that I could get through the work world well enough. I went to college, I wrote papers, but for me, editing wasn't good. Writing for a mood or to evoke an emotion or to say a specific thing, I was never very good at. I think that's why I ended up in science, because I was doing scientific writing, which is a different kind of writing. I'm stating facts, I'm stating formulas, I'm doing those things. I was good at that. But then when it came to the human part of things, I didn't know how to do that. And so I started doing, like I said, a class. A friend of mine and I had some sort of a writing challenge that we did every day. And so we each wrote a short story of fiction. And that one ended up scary. Someday I'll tell you about that, because I didn't know this, but when you write, sometimes, particularly fiction, it takes on a life of its own and it starts living outside of your brain and you're not sure what just happened. But I got better and better at it to the point where I think I'm okay. I don't enjoy it. It is still a slog. It still is time consuming for me, but I'm okay. But the question my brother asked is, if you're asking AI to do a lot of your writing. So I don't have AI write the show. I don't have AI write my podcast. What I do have it do is I record these episodes. I record my podcast. I take the transcript of what I say. I feed it into AI and it creates the show notes and the weblog article. That used to take me, those two things, almost longer than it did to actually do all of my podcasts added together. I was spending 10, 15 hours, show notes and blog articles. And I wasn't enjoying it. And I thought, well, if this is what it is, I'm not going to keep going with it. So then AI comes into the picture. Within minutes, I have both those things done. And I feel okay about it because, I'll tell you why, you're not coming to me, I think, for my writing genius. You might look at my blog articles or you might look at the show notes to, what is this article about? What is she talking about today? Is this something I'm interested in doing it? Hey, what was that thing she mentioned again? I wanted to look that up. That's why I think, or at least why I go to show notes or why I go to blog articles, so that I can remember what it was that person said. Primarily, I'm a YouTube video and I'm a podcaster, but I'm not a writer. Now, if I was a writer and I was writing books, I would expect that book to be written by me, and then I would have a different take on it. So I think that as long as the thing you're using AI for is not the thing you're known for, is not the thing that you're presenting to people, then I think it's okay. But he asked me the good question. Well, are you just now never going to get better at writing because you're letting AI do this? And to an extent, he's absolutely right. If I had sat down every week, 10 to 15 hours, wrote the blog articles, wrote the websites, I would probably get better at writing and I would start to get a better feel for it. But one, I don't want to be a blog writer. At some point, maybe I want to write a book and then I'll do that on my own. But I don't want to be a better website or show notes writer. I want to be a better work writer so that the people at work can read my presentations, I have to create charters and do all the Six Sigma things that you have to do through project management. I want to be better at that because I want to be good at my job. But honestly, I don't foresee website writing as going to be my thing. That's my best friend M's thing. Remember, we're opposites on everything. So she's good at that and she likes doing that, but that's not me. So the question then I gave to myself was, do I really want to get better at that? And the answer is, at this point, no. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many things you can tackle in your life. And at least you can be okay-ish at many things. You can be terrible at some things. I am terrible at my backyard. I am. I'm just terrible at it, and I don't care. But that's okay. We're going to be terrible at some things. We're going to be mediocre at some things, and we're going to be darn good or at other things, and then great and excellent. It was called like the circle of excellence. That's where you have to focus. You don't become a Steve Jobs. I'm not trying to be Steve Jobs, but you don't get to be a Steve Jobs by going through and saying, what am I really terrible at? He's not going to get better as a Mac designer or a business owner by going after the things he's terrible at. He has to get decent enough at, but he's going to go and lean into the things he's excellent at. And that's what makes everyone better at what they do. You have to pick and choose the things you want to be better at. And that's where you're going to have to go then and find people who are better than you at those things. There was a person at my last job. She was excellent at many different things. The company promoted her, and I wanted to find out, how could I be more like her? How could I be better being her? I wanted to be her at work, at my last job. And at one point we got to travel together, and I ran this thing that was an optimization visit where I got to go through, figure out what was going wrong with the customer, and live present as the customers talk to me about what's going wrong with them. I got a break, and then I would turn around and present back to them how they could fix their processes. And customers felt it was valuable. They flew me out all over the United States to go do this. And at some point, we were waiting in the airport, and she said, I could never do that. I never could do what you just did. That was amazing. And I thought, maybe instead of me trying to become her, I should just learn lessons from her. That's fine. But be a better version of me. That's the important thing. We all just can't be her. We have to be us too. And so that's where this going and playing chess better than you, you're going to have to put it in perspective. You don't want to do what I do and say, I'm going to become her. You're going to say, how can I learn lessons from her about something she's very good at, how she sort of looks at the world, and how can I incorporate that into my own being and be me, but be a me that learns lessons from her too. So I think that people have ego problems, that they don't want to be the worst person in the room at something. They want to be excellent. They want to look good to other people. They want to be making a good appearance to everybody. And instead, they'll never grow. If they don't go and take on some of those things and become the worst person in a room, be around people who are good at things that they're not good at, they will fall behind. They might not get better. And like I said, it's not you picking something that you're not good at, you don't enjoy, and you don't plan on getting that much better at. I'm thinking more of things that you think you have an opportunity to learn something, and something that will add accent to the good things that you're good at, will make you better at whatever it is. So I'm a talker, and I like getting up in front of groups of people and talking to them. The question is then, how do I become a better talker? How do I lean into storytelling? And so then I spend my time now listening to people who are fantastic at storytelling. I have a Bible podcast where I am telling the story of the Bible one chapter at a time. It's called The Bible in Small Steps. Now watch other people who talk about the Bible so I can understand how it is they tell this story, how they're better at saying certain things that maybe I'm not as good at. And so I listen to them, and I spend that amount of time trying to become a better storyteller. Then the question is finding the right level of challenge. So in some cases, you have to find a person who is better than you. Like my dad, he was good at chess, but if he had been the highest level of chess, I never would have beat him. I would have gotten discouraged. I couldn't have really learned any lessons from him because I wasn't at that level. And so you can't go looking for someone who's not very much better than you are because you're just looking at something that you're already good at. You can't get someone who's too much better than you are because you're not there yet. Every learning is a path. It's a progress. I was getting this example from Father Mike Schmitz on his daily podcast, and he said, imagine if you came home one day and you saw your younger sibling doing adding and subtracting. You wouldn't go to them and say, oh, that's really moronic. You haven't even gotten into multiplication and division yet. Or I might come in and say, well, I'm in calculus. You haven't even done first derivatives yet. No, we all start at a place. We're all on a path of learning. And you have to grow yourself like you would grow a team of people, like you would grow other people around you. It's a progress. It's slow. So you need to find the right level of progress too. If I go and I watch someone who is the world-class speaker, maybe I'm not there yet, and maybe I shouldn't be necessarily looking at that. I should be looking at people who give intermediate tips about public speaking. Now, I have a secret wish to do a TED Talk. Someday I would love to do a TED Talk. And so I am watching TED Talks because I want to become that good. I want to learn how to do public speaking like that. So again, you have to find the right level for you depending on what it is you're trying to learn. If I'm trying to be around people who are fitness people, I have to be around people who are around my level of fitness but are challenging to me. It's the same thing with the gym trainer, right? I go and see my gym trainer and she eggs me on. She pushes me to the next step. When Em was going to see the gym trainer, She was lifting the same amount of weights that she had always lifted and making progress, but very slow progress. Now that we have a gym person who was saying, you're going up in weights this week, she has challenged us to this level where we're pretty darn strong now, but that's what you need. What is it you need to do at that right level? If my gym trainer person ended up working us too hard, we would get sore, we would get broken, we would get injured. It's always got to be at that next level step, being a little bit better. And then when you're done playing chess or watching that person who's better at you, you do have to do some analysis time. What did I just learn from that speech? How did she just, on this TED Talk, turn everybody's attention to the right thing? And learning how, step by step, you can get better at that. Learning what that person did. And if you don't pay attention, if you're just watching the TED Talk, oh, that's cool. But not noting the techniques that were used there. Same thing if you were going to be an actor, or if you were going to go into singing, or if you were going to be a writer. What did that person just do? And note that down. Write those lessons down. And if you don't know how to do it, go figure it out. I remember I read this book, and I don't think I really liked the book that much, but it was called The Historian. And the book was fine, but there was this one sentence, and it was the most amazing sentence. I really need to copy this sentence down and analyze it. But this woman walks down the stairs, and from this one sentence about this woman walking down the stairs, you learned 50 new things about that woman that you didn't know before and what just happened right before this. I was like, wow, that is one of the most amazing sentences I've ever read. How can I write like that? Now, I think in that case, she's too hard for me, right? I have to do more remedial writing before I do trying to write like she wrote. I think her name is Elizabeth Kostova. But writing down the techniques, you're going to have to start journaling these things down, writing down next steps. If you don't understand something, write it down and get back to it later. Like I said, I should go get that historian sentence so that someday when I'm a better writer, I can actually analyze it a little bit better. And then the other part is get feedback. Find someone who will be honest with you, who can give you feedback about how you're writing and how you're doing. Now, I've cheated a little bit. I have Grammarly, which is an app that will teach you how to better write on grammar. I also have ChatGPT. So sometimes when I'm trying to write something, I'll run it by either one of those AI pieces and ask it, how could I write this better? Rearranges it. It writes a little bit better. And I go, oh, I see what you did there. That is better. And yes, it's annoying that an AI is better at writing than I am. But I remember I was doing a podcast for the Bible in Small Steps, and it was a piece about Romans. And I did the podcast already, but I was trying to summarize my thoughts at the very end of this podcast about what I really thought about this passage. So I ran the transcript through ChatGPT, and I said, what would you summarize the message I'm trying to say? And you know what? It spit out the best paragraph I could never have done myself about how I summarized what I had just said. I learned from that. I took notes about that. Like, what did it do so that I could actually be better at writing? And now, after years of watching Grammarly and ChatGPT redo my writing, I'm like better at it. I am starting to make fewer mistakes. I'm starting to write in a more engaging way. And so in that sense, the chess player I'm playing that's better than me in chess is AI, but it is teaching me lessons. And then the next part is you have to apply your lessons. I used to have what I called secret mentors, people I watched that I appreciate for certain aspects of their work careers. And I would just watch how they handled something. At my work now, in fact, everyone on my team is amazingly talented. But my boss, she is able to talk to people in such a great way. I want to learn how better to talk to other people like she talks to people. My coworker, she is the most organized project manager I have ever seen in my life. She's very direct, but very friendly, and I'm trying to learn that balance better. So when you have secret mentors, figure out what it is they're doing. Like I said, jot those things down, but now you have to start applying them. How can you actually do the things that person is doing that you're trying to learn from? It's not just good enough to understand what you could do to be better. It is important that you understand and apply it. If you never apply any of your lessons, you will never grow. And then the next part is, of course, my favorite, because this podcast has been a book podcast. Maybe someday I'll get back to being a book podcast. But now go find books of how to do that thing better. There's a book out there that says how to do a TED Talk. Love that book. It helped me in my own public speaking. But there are great books out there, podcasts, YouTube videos that will teach you how to be better at a specific thing. And then the other part of it is realize if you're uncomfortable about doing something, I am uncomfortable about doing video. I don't like myself on video. I find it uncomfortable. But I've been doing this now for a little bit, for a few months, and I'm getting better at it. At least I hope I am. And I'm feeling more comfortable at doing it than I was before. But if you feel uncomfortable about doing something, that means that it's an opportunity to grow, and it's an opportunity for you to show a little bit of grit and be persistent and stick-to-itiveness and just go with it. Because again, start with small steps. When you have small improvements, when you have small wins, celebrate them. You just have to go into motion. And you don't have to be the best. You just have to get better. I asked someone who does a very nice YouTube channel, Meredith Marsh, who does a YouTube channel on having a YouTube channel. I said, at what point do you decide you're going to quit? Because growing a YouTube channel takes time. I don't have that many watchers right now. At what point do you decide you just need to quit? And she said, if you feel like you no longer are going to grow, you're no longer going to become better, you're no longer going to improve yourself, that's when you quit, because now you're just done. You're not even trying to improve yourself. That's the real failure, is when you just decide, I'm not doing any better at this. I'm not going to even try to be any better at this. I'm not going to try to learn from other people to be better at this. I'm just done. I thought that was a very valuable lesson. So my challenge to you is try to put yourself into one uncomfortable situation where you're the least experienced person in the room, in the Zoom meeting, on a project, and give that opportunity to learn from someone, write down what it is they're doing, and then make time for you to actually practice what it is you just learned. All right, everyone, thanks so much. I appreciate you watching this video. Please remember that you can always ask me questions. You can put them right here in the YouTube channel if you're watching this, or email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. I'd love to hear about your struggles, making sure that you always play chess with someone better than you are.